Back when I was 25, I found myself in the situation where I was without a car. My last car had been scrapped as it had run its course and was costing too much to fix with its constant issues, and it would just be cheaper for me to buy a new car. So, being on a budget, I took to looking on Craigslist to see if there was anything I could find for a decent price and within my budget. After searching through listing after listing, I finally came across a car that caught my eye and was listed for a great price. A used grey Toyota Corolla 2010 model for $3,600. From the pictures, it looked in great condition and was within my budget as I didn't want to go over $5,000. I contacted the seller immediately to show my interest and inquire about viewing the car. It wasn't long before I got a response, and the owner said that was no problem and I could view the car later that week. I called the number listed to arrange a time and where we would be meeting. When the person on the other end answered, they were more than happy to let me view the car with the intention of buying it. After asking a few questions regarding the car, the seller assured me it was in great condition. The man stated he was busy working in the week, but he would finish early the following evening, so if I wanted to, I could meet him at around 6 p.m. after his shift. The man asked if I could meet him at a local Walmart car park close from his work, as he stated he was always cautious with selling online and didn't want people he had never met coming to his house and preferred meeting at a public place. I got that and understood what he was saying, so I agreed to meet him the following evening at 6 p.m. Before he hung up, he apologized as he forgot to mention if I had read the post, as it said on the post cash-only buyers, asking if I was okay paying in cash. I agreed, telling him that would be okay and I would be able to do that. The following day came. I was excited I would hopefully be able to get my hands on a new car if everything went well there. I got everything I needed, and as the evening approached, my friend had offered to drive me there. We were just about to leave and make our way to the location when I got a text from the man. "Sorry, I'm not going to get out of work on time. Can we push our meeting back until 8:30? As annoying as it was, I still wanted the car, so I replied saying that would be okay. The only issue was, my friend couldn't wait around until that time, as he already had plans that evening. I told him it was okay, and I'd make my own way up there. So, with the new arranged time, I waited around until 8 when I ordered an Uber to where we were meeting. I arrived just before 8:30. The car park was half empty, but I couldn't see the Toyota anywhere. I texted the guy to tell him I had arrived and that I was out front. I didn't get a reply, and with it nearing 8:45, I had been standing waiting 15 minutes after the time we were supposed to meet. I was about to call it quits, thinking I'd wasted my time, when I finally received a call. It was the seller. He apologized, stating he'd been held up at work but he was now on his way. If I was still there, he would be 15 minutes. Annoyed I'd been waiting around, I didn't want it to be a wasted journey, and did need the car, so I told him it was okay and that I would wait for him to arrive. As the time passed, it was now dark and still, I saw no sign of the Toyota. It was then a black Chevy pulled into the lot, as it slowly drove around. It pulled up at the back of the car park opposite me, as it began to flash its lights. I didn't realize at first they were flashing at me, until my phone rang again. "Hey, are you wearing a blue hoodie standing near the entrance?" The guy described me as I looked up. "I'm at the back, just parked up. See the lights flashing?" I looked over, and it was indeed the black Chevy that had pulled in, flashing at me. He told me to come over, as I saw him step out of the Chevy as he hung up, waving over at me. I thought it was strange that there was no sight of the Toyota, and he had arrived in a totally different vehicle. I slowly walked over, puzzled as to where the car was. As I reached the seller, a smile broke across his face. He introduced himself as Dwayne and apologized for being late. My first question to him was in confusion. Where was the Toyota? The man laughed, as he stated he had drove straight here from work and that his friend was driving the Toyota down now as he didn't have time to go home and get it. Plus, if I bought it, he would need the second car to get back. As he said this, it was then the car pulled up alongside us. It was the Toyota, as a hooded man got out the driver's side with his hood up and head down. He walked past us, handing the seller the keys as he went and sat in the Chevy, without saying a word. The seller smiled at me, as he said, "Don't mind him, he's not the talkative type." He then pointed over to the Toyota, ushering me to have a look. As we walked around, he told me how reliable the car was and how it kept in good condition. I could see it was actually like in the pictures. The seller then offered me to take it for a test drive. If I liked it and it ran smoothly, then the car was mine. In the moment, and wanting the car, I agreed. As we both jumped in and he handed me the keys, he told me to drive out of the car park, and we'd come back here after. As I pulled out, I saw the Chevy's lights come on as it followed behind. I looked in the rearview mirror as it tailgated us. I thought that was strange. I asked the man why his friend was following us if we were heading back there after the test drive. The man just laughed as he directed me where to go, seemingly ignoring the question. That's when an uncomfortable feeling built up in the pit of my stomach as something didn't feel quite right. As we drove, I told the man that the car was great and I'd turn around and we could head back to the car park. I didn't need to drive any further. That's when the encounter took a terrifying turn. The man pulled a gun from his jacket as he held it into my side and told me, "Keep fucking driving." A wave of fear coursed through me as my heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. I was trapped. I didn't know what to do, but listen to what I was told for fear of being shot. I asked what he wanted, but he told me to shut up as he directed me as we drove. It felt like I was in that car forever when he directed me down a dark abandoned estate where we pulled into an empty parking lot. He told me to turn the car off and pass him the keys. As I did, he then told me to get out of the car while holding the gun up to me as we both stepped out of the car. The black Chevy's bright lights pulling up behind us. The man told me to turn around as he held the gun to me. The Chevy door slammed shut and his accomplice joined us, rooting through my pockets, taking everything I had, the money I had for the car, my phone and the watch off my wrist. He lay my phone on the ground as he stamped on it, crushing it, before kicking it out of sight and returning to the car. The seller then told me to get on my knees. The color drained from my skin. I asked him not to do this. He had all he wanted. He held the barrel of the gun to the back of my head as he again told me to get on my knees. I conceded and got to my knees as I feared this was it. I felt physically sick. My heart raced as I heard the gun clock. My eyes closed. It was then I heard the door to the car shut and their engine start. The sound of both cars sped out of the car park as the headlights disappeared, as the area fell to complete darkness. I felt so vulnerable. I had been robbed blind and left in the middle of nowhere with no phone to contact help. My only option, to walk back to where I could find civilization. When I finally found my way back and got help, I called the police immediately to report what happened. That night was the scariest night of my life. I only have myself to blame for getting into that situation in the first place. But how was I supposed to know what awaited me? The men were never apprehended. The Craigslist post gone, unable to trace. Which sickens me that they got away with what they did to me, and probably many others. I have never used Craigslist again. I should have been more switched on and read the multiple warning signs I had. But the want for a good deal that was just too good to be true clouded my judgment. I will never be so gullible again. When using these online platforms to buy, sell, or whatever reason you do, always be careful out there, and don't make the same mistake I did. I was on the lookout for a new recliner chair. The current one I had is pretty worn and on its last legs, so wanting to get a new one, I thought I didn't really want to be paying out too much, and decided to browse Craigslist to see what I could find. I'd used Craigslist many times before. The marketplace wasn't new to me. I had bought items and sold items on the platform with no real issues. So when I began my search for a new recliner, I knew where to begin, and it didn't take me long to find a few options. As I browsed through the ads, I filtered through the ones that didn't really appeal to me. Some were tattered and the pictures didn't look great. But then after some digging, I found one that really caught my eye for a good price. It was black leather, and that would already match the sofa set I already had in the house. It was listed for a reasonable price, so not waiting around, I contacted the seller and inquired about viewing the item. When the seller answered, I said hello. There was a long pause, so much so I thought no one was there and was about to put the phone down, when I then heard breathing down the phone, followed by a hoarse-voiced hello. I said, "Oh, hey, I saw your ad for the recliner on Craigslist and was interested in coming to see it." There was again a long pause with just the sound of breathing, until finally the seller said, "Oh yeah, that thing. Sure. Well, it's at a storage unit currently. What I can do is get it out and load it onto my van and bring it your way. If you like it after seeing it, we can talk about a price and you can have it." I said to the man, "That's great, but not being keen on having him come here, I offered to go to the storage unit to view it myself." "The storage unit's a while away, so to save you the journey, I can collect it and bring it your way. It's no problem. And if you don't want the chair, don't worry. Don't feel inclined that you have to buy it." Hearing the seller say this, and alleviating the pressure of feeling I would have to buy it after he drove out of his way, I thought it would save me the journey, and he seemed like a reasonable guy, so I agreed, and we set a day and time, and I gave him the address. A few days later, on the day I was expecting the guy to arrive with the chair, I couldn't seem to get through to him when calling or texting to double check that he was still coming. I got no reply, and the phone seemed to ring out. It had gotten to the late afternoon, and after waiting the majority of the day, I assumed that was it. The guy wasn't coming, and I'd wasted my time. As I was getting ready to head out, there was a knock at my door. I stopped what I was doing as I went and looked out the window. I could see a van parked out front at the bottom of my drive. As I went to the door and opened it, there was an older man standing in the door as he said, "Hey, I'm here with the chair." Surprised he'd come, I said how I had tried to get in touch with him and assumed he wasn't coming. He chuckled to himself as he looked at me and said he was sorry, but he had lost his phone. Luckily, he'd wrote the address down when we spoke the other day. He didn't want to hold me up any longer, and the chair was in the back of the van if I wanted to come and check it out. Not wanting him to have wasted his journey and really wanting to get the chair, I said of course and was happy he'd actually turned up. As we reached the back of the van, he stopped me, as he said sorry if the van smells a bit. He often uses the van when hunting and storing the animals. I didn't really need to know that, but thanks for the heads up, I thought. As he opened the van, I couldn't really smell anything that bad, which was good, and as he had the chair right at the front, it was easy to see. We looked it over and it was in mint condition. It was great. The seller lowered it out of the van as to get a better look and test it out. As I sat in it, it was comfy. The levers worked with no issues. I was sold. I said I'd take it, and a smile crept across the seller's face. He seemed just as happy to make the sale as I was buying it. I asked him if he would accept a little less than the asking price, as a part of the leather on the top shoulder was grazed. Expecting him to say no and stick to the asking price, he said he hadn't even noticed that, and sure, he would accept slightly lower. Wow, I thought. I had literally picked myself up a great deal. The seller helped me get it in the house before taking the money, thanking me for my time and leaving. After positioning my new purchase and rearranging a few things in the room to make it fit well, I headed out to meet my friend for the plans we had that night. Later that night, we arrived back. My friend had come to mine and we were going to have a beer before he went home. As we walked into my house, I turned on the light and showed him my new chair in the front room, telling him to have a seat whilst I got the beers. As I was getting the beers, it was then my friend called me, asking what the smell was in the room. I didn't know what he was talking about, so walking in with the beers, I stepped in the room as I sniffed to smell what he was talking about. And sure enough, I too could smell an unpleasant stench that smelt like, to put it bluntly, shit. Now, I have a cat, so I naturally checked to see if they'd peed or crapped in the room anywhere, as cat crap stinks. But I couldn't find anything. I got some air freshener and sprayed it around the room to mask the smell until I could pinpoint what it was. We sat and had our beers as we discussed what we thought it was. My friend suggested I check if I had a leak anywhere from the bathroom, or see if a waste pipe was leaking, as the bathroom was directly above. It was late, and we had a few more beers before calling it a night. I said if it was the same tomorrow, I'd investigate further to see what it was. The next day I woke up and, getting myself ready, I walked downstairs, making myself a coffee. As I went to my front room, I was again hit with the same smell. But this time it was worse, like it had settled overnight and filled the room. It smelt like a rotting animal. I couldn't understand where it was coming from. There was no leak. The smell wasn't coming from the pipe. It was then, as I searched the room, I thought, the smell only appeared since I got the recliner in here. As I leant into the recliner, examining it, the smell had to be coming from the chair. Then I remembered the guy saying about his van and the animals he would keep in there. Had the smell seeped into the leather of the cushion of the chair? Could that be what it was? As I maneuvered the chair and extended it out, it was then I could see the bottom of the chair. Where the zip was, on the bottom of the chair, that led inside the base of the chair, the zip itself had a cable tie clamped to it. I thought that was strange straight away, so I headed to the kitchen, got some scissors and returned to cut it off. I lay down, cutting off the cable tie, as I placed it aside, my fingers grabbing the zip as I slowly pulled it across the opening of the base of the chair. As I opened it, the smell increased tenfold. It was coming from inside the chair. As I slowly reached in to see what the hell was inside, my hand was met with a hard, square object. As I pulled it out, it was a tattered box. I placed it on the floor as I sat next to it, my breathing becoming heavy as I tried to hold my breath. Whatever the smell was, it was coming from inside that box. My heart began to race as my hand slowly hovered over the lid. Did I want to see what was inside? I slowly pulled the top off the box and instantly heaved as I moved away from the box. What lay inside was a rotting pair of severed hands, placed together holding what seemed to be a decomposing heart. Instantly, I threw up from seeing what the smell was, my eyes watering. I couldn't believe my eyes. I called the police as I explained to them what I had found. What followed was myself being questioned, my living room cordoned off whilst everything was investigated. I explained to the police about purchasing the chair off a seller on Craigslist days prior. I couldn't give them much information on him, only a description of the seller and his van. I didn't even get his name. The post obviously gone, and no other post from the same person. His number non-existent, and I don't even know where he lived as he brought the chair to me. All the findings were bagged for evidence, and both them and the chair taken for examining. As far as I'm aware, this is still unsolved, and I have no idea who that man was, and if what was found in that chair was related to a crime that he had committed. I still have questions. Did he know it was there or forget? Was his intention to have this found someday? I just don't know. It still shocks me today what I found, and just the situation I found myself in from buying a chair. I've heard my fair share of crazy stories, but I never thought I'd have one quite like this myself. It's a rare thing to happen, but I still don't buy off Craigslist anymore. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed these terrifying encounters. Comment and let us know what you would have done in these situations. And drop a like and share. It really helps the channel out. If you're enjoying the horror and haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We have plenty more terrifying content on the way that we look forward to bringing you. So, until next time, remember, fear lies within.